Hey everybody, it's Jason with Parallel Reality coming back with you here today to go over an article from June 8th from Townhall by the great Kurt Schlichter. Go follow him on Twitter as well. Very blunt and to the point, which I do like. Article's called Who Do the Dems Replace Biden With? And I just thought that was an interesting title, so I'm like, I kind of got to read this and see exactly what he says about this, because their bench is pretty thin. So the article says, since allegedly getting elected president, Joe Biden has gotten his ancient behind kicked by the Taliban, by Kevin McCarthy, and by a random United States Air Force sandbag, to name just a few of the groups, individuals, and inanimate objects that have bested the worst president since Jimmy Carter. This guy is not well. Some might call him senile, some might call him dumb, some might call him a corrupt pervert, and some might call that list a good start. That's correct. That pretty much that says everything. I was thinking about after these are done, I was like, oh, and we should add this, but I'm like, no, I think senile, dumb, and a corrupt pervert are, yeah, I think that covers the entire base. So the article goes on and says, he mumbles that he's running, but is not assured that Biden will be on the ballot in November 2024. There is precedent for a sitting president not being present at the end of the race. LBJ was running, but he got humiliated in the primaries early 1968 and dropped out. Now let's go Brandon is no Lyndon Baines Johnson. The Delaware dipwad, nice, has less dignity than the guy who made his aides talk to him while he was on the crapper. That was Lyndon Johnson. As long as Bididler is staggering along being weakened at Bernie's by his wife, the doctor, and a bunch of real doctors, he will be the Democrats' nominee. There's not going to be a coup. There's not going to be a rebellion, even if the GOP managed to nominate someone who is not a mortal lock on defeat. There is no council of wise men that will convene, realize that this whole charade is ridiculous, and that this guy belongs in a home, and anoint some less feckless candidate, partially because there's no consensus on who the replacement might be, and partially because a council of wise men assumes their gender is sexist, and wisdom would probably be labeled white supremacy by the nincompoops of power who form the core of the Democrat Party. I detect nothing wrong. There. So they will run Biden if they can. Sure, he's a mental defective, but he'd fare no worse than Dianne Feinstein or Ogre Fetterman in a round peg square hole competition. The Democrats can live with an avatar-in-chief, and they will. The fact is that the Democrats will nominate Hunter's daddy in 2024, barring the machinations of fate, but fate may have other plans. He could break his hip, he could get sick. Let's not be morbid, but when you're a guy his age, you need to short his actuarial chances. The fact is that fate might take him out of the equation, and then what the hell do Democrats do? So he says, I hope they panic and tear themselves apart. And God, I'm kind of hoping for the same thing. So who rides in as their white knight, understanding that the white and knight parts are both terrible for a number of reasons. The most fearsome candidate is Michelle Obama, but she pretty clearly has no interest in doing this job or any job. So neither does Bernie Sanders. The communist will not be attending the White House, adding the White House to his long list of mansions. Maybe they would defrost Hillary Clinton, but the fact that we rarely see her anymore tells us that she's not doing so great either. Felonia Milhouse von Pantsuit would be 77 in 2024. And remember how 7 years ago she had to be scooped up and loaded into an SUV after falling over from the strain of standing upright for a minute? At least we've dodged that nagging bitter bullet, unlike Vince Foster. Oh, there's a bit of a... Nice. I kid. No, really, I kid. I have a lot to live for. Who else might take Krusty's place? As well, in a grievous oversight, the founders did not impose an IQ test for the office of vice president, so if Joe pops smoke, then cackling Kamala inherits the job. Oh, can't wait for that one. She would insist that it is her right to keep it and assume the 2024 nomination, but, not to put too fine a point on it, everyone hates her and thinks she's a borderline clinical idiot plus a total embarrassment, and that's just her staff. Yeah, go look up any of the edited videos that I made, not me talking at all, but just the ones of her speaking, I guess if you can call it that, and just how she just speaks in like word salad. Like that's basically how she communicates. She is not an intelligent person or even a halfway decent speaker. This is exactly who is going to get swooped up into the vortex of Kamala mania. Her weirdo husband. No one likes her. No one respects her. No one wants her. And again, that's just her staff. But we know that gross incompetence is no barrier to a successful Democrat candidacy, so she could be still be in the running if she inspired fear in her competitors instead of loathing. They look at her, and instead of trembling at her wrath, they start thinking about how they would redo the Oval Office. No one is afraid of her. She would have to go out and take the nomination, which means convincing the Democrat base to support her. She tried that once, before she ended up botching the vice presidency. You almost have to try to dumb enough to, what is that? You almost have to try to dumb enough to screw up a job. You almost have to try to be dumb enough to screw up a job that requires literally nothing but perfect attendance and not forgetting to breathe. Says the Democrat primary voters gave her about 1% of the vote. She's flirting with Asa Hutchinson territory. They were too kind. And if you don't know who Asa Hutchinson is right off the top of your head, he's the former governor of Arkansas that has decided to throw his hat into the Republican nomination. Dude's a rhino, like of all rhinos. He's not going to do anything. And so why he's doing this, I don't know. Says no, her competitors will smell weakness and start circling her like wolves following the buffalo with a limp. Some kind of already are. Gavin Newsom, Democrat contingency, has been running a shadow campaign for a year now just in case Failey McFailure falls out. He's going all around the country telling other governors how they should run their states, and they are taking his advice in a way. They see what Governor Hairstyle has done in the Golden State and do the opposite. Gavin is good looking and dumb, which is true, so he's got that Kennedy thing going. The actual Kennedy in the race is a non-player. He's too weird even for the Dems. I kind of liked him, some of his things that he said. Still picking up the seats, picking him sets up a race between himself and Trump, call that a wash, or DeSantis, a guy who is running a successful state. Gavin offers the country the chance to make all of America modern California, which is as appealing a prospect as taking a bite from some San Francisco hobo's half-eaten hepatitis and crank burrito. That sounds appalling. There's Pete Buttigieg, who is very impressive to Pete Buttigieg. His unspoken premise is that all the jobs he previously had and failed at, mayor, transportation secretary, Alfred E. Newman doppelganger, have prepared him to fail as president. It's certainly correct, but it's not a selling point. Moreover, he's got this teen woke scold vibe, and by 2024, the wokeness backlash might be in full effect. Roads are racist might once again be seen as being just as transcendently stupid a concept as it objectively is. Who else? Says, well, there are some governors who might take a shot. Josh Shapiro in Pennsylvania is popular and comes from a key battleground state. Him being the Democrat nominee might be awkward, considering that so many of his party's leading lights yearn for the annihilation of the world's sole Jewish nation, which, again, that is very true, unfortunately. So he does have the advantage of having a reputation of not being a total incompetent, though Pennsylvania is far from a finely tuned machine. But he is still stuck with the albatross that is all the Democrat nonsense he has to genuflect to, stuff that normal Americans are increasingly rejecting. It's unclear whether he or anyone can pull off a Sister Soldier moment by speaking some Democrat pagan blasphemy like crime is bad, or maybe men dressed as women should not be twerking in front of kindergartners. So that's the challenge for the Dem moderates, in scare quotes. There are no Dem moderates, not if they drink the commie Kool-Aid, and if you don't take a big gulp, the Pinko Caucus will destroy you. That's why Governor Jared Polis of Colorado is problematic. His selling point is also that he's not quite as left as the rest of the Dems, but he's still pretty left. His state reeks of dope and is full of bums. America is getting sick of nonsense, and the problem for any Democrat is that the Democrat Party platform is all nonsense. There's now a new name for moderate Democrats, squish Republicans. Really, I did not know that. Since every other Democrat is a damn commie. So that's about the extent of the Democrat bench. The problem with keeping a gerontocracy in power for a couple of decades past its sell-by date is that you don't build a bench. They built a sick bed. A lot of potential candidates got tired of waiting for guys like Biden to take their final tumble and went off to mess things up in academia or the private sector. That's why if something happens to Grandpa Badfinger, the Democrats will have to belly up to a smorgasbord of mediocrity and dig in. Yeah, the Republican bench is a lot deeper than the Democrats one. I mean, you got, well, DeSantis and is next to Trump, of course. But then you've even got, I mean, she hasn't declared anything, but Kristi Noem or Sarah Sanders. Even the people some of the people who are running, Vivek Ramaswamy is good. There's definitely a lot of people that you could look on the Republican side and say, yeah, these people are all like pretty good. So what do you guys think about this? Do you think the Democrats have a very thin bench? Who does replace Biden? What do you think about the article? Let me know in the comments below. Like, share, subscribe, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.